Hi, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Happy Death Day. What?
No, I mean, it's just, you forgot my death day this year, but whatever.
Mike, that's not a real thing. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
And welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting synonym roles and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Nicole Tanis on Facebook Live for that wonderful cinnamon suggestion.
That's one of the more clever...
That is.
Mm-hmm. We're both struggling with our costumes right now. If you're watching on... If you're watching on audio, I'm sorry. If you're watching on video...
If you're watching on video, I'm also sorry.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But this is our Halloween special episode, even though it's coming out after Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to just throw some costumes on, and I'm Batman. I don't know what Joe is.
I'm a lot of things right now. I have this sort of Phantom of the Opera mask on. Got some glasses on, a mustache
the glasses
on.
Underneath it.
I have this wig on, and I have it's kind of like a lunchmaid's apron on too. So there's that. I'm gonna take these glasses off right away because they are not a prescription that I need. I'm not gonna try to read things off the screen.
This is hard to keep the Batman thing on over my glasses.
Oh, I'm done with the Phantom of the Opera mask. Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for bringing that to us via Facebook Live.
Yeah, we did our live episode today,
mm-hmm.
and we'll be doing one in a week or two from now when this comes
like a
out.
week or two from now.
I wish I had written down the date that our
the
next one will be.
weekend after our There Will Be Brave.
There will be only the Brave episode comes out. One episode after this, and then our Facebook Live that Saturday, whenever that is. So you should definitely tune in for that. It was a lot of fun today. You can ask us questions, just talk to us. You can listen to us talk about all the latest movie news. Joe is just ready to get into this beer. He can't wait. You look like you cooked this beer.
Jesse,
get the beans.
These are definitely like, I use these as like Walter White glasses. Yeah. This was my Russ Cole wig. I'm not really sure what this mustache was for. Maybe my True Detective season 2. Ray Valcuro.
Were you Ray Valcuro?
Yeah, do you not remember that? That was even better than my Russ Cole costume. And then this apron was from a Billy Mays sketch.
I couldn't wait for the beer either. This week we're drinking Atomic Pumpkin from Voodoo Ranger. Damn, that's good.
Dude, did you take a sip?
Yeah, part of the problem I think is that like the pumpkin beers,
mm-hmm.
they go too hard into just the actual pumpkin flavor, and like you need like some of the other spices of fall in there to make it work. Like one of my other favorites is Post Road from Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of like, cinnamon and other like fall type spices that are fucking around. Oh, that's right. We have drink up, Mr. Skeleton.
We have skull mugs. This is fucking. I had this the other night and I got a little too wild off this. It's kind of. It is. Oh, okay. Here it is. Pumpkin ale featuring cinnamon and habanero chili peppers for just that right amount of heat. Have you taken a sip of this yet? It's fucking spicy. This is New Belgium's Voodoo Ranger special release.
That like back of the throat spice.
There's heat.
Ooh.
Voodoo Ranger special release Atomic Pumpkin. I was telling Mike earlier, I feel like...
Are they the ones that do Fat Tire, New Belgium?
Yes. Mm-hmm. They also have this is like their third or fourth Voodoo Ranger too. I see a bunch. There's a ton of Voodoo Rangers. But this is this literally tastes like fucking we had Savory and I had some other pumpkin beer the other night, and it was like this pumpkin beer, you can hold on, let me taste it. It tastes like the spices in like a pumpkin pie almost.
Yeah, rather than pumpkin spice or just pumpkin.
Right, yeah. We had something the other night, and this is even more interesting because it mixes that with like habanero.
Or it tastes like sometimes like you'll get a pumpkin beer at a bar and they'll salt the rim with like sugar and cinnamon and pumpkin spice on there. That's a better taste.
This is spicy. It kind of makes my stomach hurt.
I love this. I have not had a beer that tastes like that. I really enjoy that.
I'm glad you like it a lot. I mean, I had pretty much all of it the
also,
other night.
I owe you for it, so tell me how much it was.
It was that was the thing. I went to the store. I mean, granted, it was an Acme, a grocery store, and they don't really have a huge selection, but I was kind of surprised. I was like, all right, I came here and got a pumpkin beer the other night, and then I went here again, and I was like, this is really the only pumpkin beer they have on display. Like, I don't know. There were like two others that were stouts, but again, I was like, they were like $16 for like 4 bottles. I was like, I'm not doing that. This was like $9.99, you know, for 6 bottles. It was just like a fair 6-pack.
Hell yeah.
Hell fucking yeah. We're back in college. Happy Death Day.
We're gonna live forever.
Pledge my frat.
That's what college is, right? Is 6 people.
Everybody's always pledging frats at college. We didn't really go to like
no matter what season it is, it's pledge season.
We didn't really go to like a frat dominated college.
No, there was like Teak, and that was really the only one that ever interacted with us.
Yeah, I like don't even think frats were like allowed to kind of publicize themselves
there is
on campus.
Yeah, they can't have housing through the school. There was something with like where William Patterson, where we went to college, used to be this big party school, and like the one place where we used to get like deli sandwiches and stuff and cheesesteaks and stuff at like late night used to be a bar that was on campus, and it used to be like comparable to like Rutgers supposedly, and then they had a lot of like bad incidents, and they were just kind of like let's just focus on like the education stuff,
right?
And they banned a bunch of Greek houses from being on campus, and that kind of killed the party life on William Patterson, and that's why it's a commuter school now.
Yeah, no, it was a lonely school. I didn't really mind. I've never really liked the whole frat life.
I like having that as a place to go. I wouldn't want to live at. It was nice to go to Rutgers every once in a while and for a wild party, but I couldn't do that every weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think didn't we even go to like we were like.
Yeah, I brought you down to Rutgers.
Or no, I mean even like Teak on William Patterson.
I didn't go to
was
Teak
trying to.
Oh,
okay. I went there. It got real weird real quick.
Yeah, I think that was freshman year.
But yeah, this is I like this beer. It's so different. I don't know, spicy beer. But anyway,
Mamma mia, that's a spicy beer.
Mike, read me that IMDb description, man.
Read your own description.
Whoa, I'm a Jamaican man. What? I didn't ever ask for that. I've only been about peace and love and Bob Marley, man.
Gonna gloss right over that. A college student must relive the day. I hope people can hear me like through this mask because it's like right in front of my mouth.
Yeah, it is echoing kind of back into your nose.
A college student must relive the day of her murder over and over again in a loop that will only end when she discovers her killer's identity. That wasn't really made clear.
Yeah.
That there was a known ending to this loop.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But anyway, Happy Death Day is directed by Christopher B. Nolan. Christopher Nolan. This is his latest project. He said after Dunkirk.
He worked really hard after Dunkirk.
I want to do
passion project of mine that I've been working on for a while.
But he has written the screenplay for, I mean, most notably, Blood and Chocolate, Disturbia, which Sabri and I watched the other day. I've never seen Disturbia before.
Disturbia is a pretty solid, like, just... That's a good Netflix movie. I don't know if it's on Netflix, but...
No, I think she had to watch it through Cody. Sorry.
If that was on Netflix, that's a great, just like,
yeah.
I want to turn my brain off, but also enjoy something. This is the Shia LaBeouf one, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Boof.
Yeah. The Boof is in it. He wrote the screenplay for Paranormal Activity 2, 3, and 4, and Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. Also, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse and Viral. He has directed getting my fake hair out of the way. He has directed a short film, a TV series, documentary. His features include Burning Palms, which I was watching the trailer for the other day. There's a bunch of people who like later become bigger actors that are in that. It looks kind of interesting. Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and, of course, Happy Death Day. Obviously, the film was released under, I mean, maybe not obviously, but it's produced by Jason Blum, or Blum. I think it's actually, I've been calling it Bloom for a while.
Blumhouse?
Yeah, I feel like I referred to it as that the entire Get Out and Split episode. I think I was saying Blumhouse that entire both those episodes.
Yeah, I thought it was Blumhouse. I didn't realize there's
a Jason Blum who produces Blumhouse films. So I mean, again, if you haven't watched the Split or Get Out reviews that we've done, we've talked about the Blumhouse model. I think it's a pretty damn good model. I mean, for what they're killing it this year. Like I was talking to Mike, or maybe a group chat that we're in earlier. They're killing it this year for just like a pretty shitty movie year, where everyone's really been struggling to make a profit over the summer, or like they're just not hitting those projected marks. These Blumhouse,
their business model is spend less.
Yeah,
you'll make more money.
Blumhouse is like, instead of like, we're gonna make Blade Runner and a few other movies this year, and they're all gonna cost $150 million. Blumhouse is like, why don't we make like 15 to 30 films that all cost under $5 million? And they've been like bringing back this gigantic return. Whether it's this movie, they tripled, quadrupled, like whatever.
I'm sure they put out a lot that probably doesn't return, but it's kind of just like playing like the roulette table and just being like, we just put down one on everything, and something's gonna bounce back.
I mean, Get Out.
You're not playing with the same type of odds, so you can have a movie like Get Out that's gonna pay for your entire year of $35 million.
Yeah, I don't even know how much Get Out made. It made a shit ton of money, and it cost even less than this movie. Split, I think, cost a little more than $5 million. Maybe it was $6 million. So they have like this pretty great business model, and I'm glad that they can make movies like this. I think I also saw something else this year by them. It was like the one where they're all trapped in a business kind of complex.
The Belko experiment.
Yeah, the Belko experiment, and that wasn't even bad. It was like, I watched it on my computer, but I was like, oh, that wasn't. It entertained me. Anyway,
it's also like when you only are willing to and spending $5 million on each movie, like you also just have that fallback of like, hey man, it was a low budget horror indie movie. Like, what do you want to do?
Exactly. Like, they don't have to go through like $100 million of like, we give you $100 million and you brought back this kind of thing. They're just like, we gave you $5 million and you brought back this. That's totally reasonable. Let's run it.
They make 2.5 on the theaters and 2.5 on the DVDs. They're fine.
Yeah. something that I thought was interesting, the mask was constructed by Tony Gardner, the same man who built the infamous ghost mask from every Scream film. And its design was personal. Landon explains, during pre-production, I was expecting my first son. I don't know if I just had babies on the brain or I was subconsciously scared to become a father, but that baby image was floating around my head. Tony made us a pig mask too, but when I wore the baby mask in the office, I scared a co-worker and we thought, yeah, this is it. This is the one. Christopher Landon has inspired such films as Groundhog Day, Scream, Halloween, 16 Candles, was inspired by. He hasn't inspired these movies. He was inspired by, obviously, Groundhog Day, Scream, Halloween, 16 Candles, Back to the Future, E.T., Goonies, Gremlins, and An American Tail, Inner Space, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Black Christmas, and Heathers. Yeah, I just thought that was like a nice little...
I mean, the baby mask also, like, it makes sense for the theme of the movie, like birthday, death day, and it's like babies are birth... that's what you're celebrating is when you're born, and
yeah,
it's sort of, it makes more sense than a pig mask would have made for this.
Well, a pig I think would have been a more
believable mascot, maybe.
Believable mascot for a university, like the whatever university they go to. I love that their like mascot was babies.
Bayfield Babies.
Yeah, the Bayfield Babies.
Is Bayfield a real town anywhere? I feel like I've heard that name.
I don't know.
As like that's like the go-to like fake town, like
yeah.
Oh, Bayfield.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't a super believable college mascot, but then again,
there's also some wacky
there's some
ones
if there's anywhere you can get away with it, like I wouldn't pass it off as like an NFL mascot, but college you can probably get away with it, especially if they're not in like Division 1 or something. If they're like Division 3 team. Like our university was, we were like the fucking
the mascot was a bear, Billy the bear,
but we were pioneers.
We were the pioneers, yeah.
That doesn't really make sense. So
they had to fight the bears. The bear's the enemy of the pioneer.
Even some Division 1 schools, like some that are local to here, I think it's like the. Actually, I don't know if Rowan's Division 1, but they're like the Rowan professors.
I think Rowan's like an owl.
Yeah, are they? No. That's Temple Owls.
I thought Rowan was an owl or something. Too.
I don't know. You can look it up. I mean, I know
there's one that's like a.
My sister went to LaSalle, and they're like Division 1. They were even in March Madness at some point when they were when my sister went there. She was cheerleading for it. And they were like the LaSalle, I don't even know what they were, like navigators or something, like explorers. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the prof is the official mascot of Rowan University athletics.
They're the professors.
I am confusing the Temple Owls.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's one I forget what school it is. I always see them in March Madness, but they're like the Friars or something like that.
But yeah, first impressions, I was so upset that they didn't use the 50 Cent birthday.
Yeah, it was in the trailer.
And they even, in the trailer, I think they used that as her ringtone, and it's not even her ringtone.
Because I was expecting that when her phone rang.
Yeah.
And it's a really annoying song that I fucking hate.
It's your birthday! What song is that?
It sounds like something that someone actually made. Like I thought they were trying to get across the point that she made this song as their ringtone, which is weird because like that's also like barely even a thing you can do on phones anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like
nobody has specialized ringtones anymore.
Oh yeah, everyone just has the app, which is also I always just think that's funny that like there was that ringtone craze for a while, and now everyone's just kind of like, yeah, whatever Apple or Android gives me is fine for the ringtone.
Yeah. I thought that would have been so much better.
It was just, I mean, anything would be better than the ringtone that they had. It was so annoying to listen to.
Oh, but the film was first announced in July 2007 with Megan Fox attached to star. The film was originally titled Half to Death and would be produced by Michael Bay. So it's taken a turn since the development started. Even though I kind of really like Jessica Roth or whatever her name is in this movie. I think she's really able to accomplish, like, I didn't like her when it began, but I don't think you're supposed to like her as a character. I didn't even really find her that attractive at the beginning. But again, when she has this sort of redemption arc and she's able to kind of be her best self, I mean, like, everybody, like everybody's arc in like these kinds of movies. There's so many of these movies that we haven't even talked to. I mean, this is obviously Groundhog's Day, but it's also, I think there's like at least 10 movies that all follow this premise. I mean, the what is the one with Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise?
I don't know which one that is. Is that Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
that's just, I did not know the movie was about that. I'm just what movies have Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt?
It's a time loop movie. I think they're not even called like Groundhog Day genre. It's just, they're literally referred to time loop movies.
Oh, there's the Jake Gyllenhaal one.
Oh yeah,
That's
Source Code.
Just 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot, especially in the early 2000s. I think they pumped out at least like,
I'm sure there's a Rick and Morty episode.
Quite a few. Oh my god.
We're just not smart enough to understand.
Yeah, we're just not.
I didn't like Jessica Roth.
Oh, really? Okay.
The only actor or actress that I liked in this was the guy who played Carter. And I thought he gave a certain sense of like, really, like, I believed that he was an attractive nerd or uncomfortable person that still had like outgoing qualities and just wasn't your typical whatever. And then everyone else was just kind of written into like a stereotypical role, and they would do like a lot, like not in a good way, like too much with it, but they didn't, like, there's like a sweet spot or an unsweet spot of like, if you're gonna have these kind of like lazy stereotypical roles, like, you want to do like too much with them. You want to kind of push that kind of, to the point where the movie becomes like a satire in a way, and it's self-aware.
Right.
And it was like they didn't push it too much. Like, the one that pisses me off the most is the sorority leader.
Okay.
Where like she is playing like a stereotype of like the bitchy sorority girl, super pretty, just totally consumed with her looks, beating everyone else up about like what they're eating for lunch and stuff like that. And like, she didn't push it so far that it was like satire or self-aware at all, but she didn't play it like realistic either. So it was in this like weird middle ground of like.
So she's the one when every time there's like a meeting at 1 p.m., she's the one there.
Like, Becky, what are you eating? Like, what
right. Okay,
I thought you were talking in the yellow. Yeah, like sports bra. I was like, you little biatch, you sneaky little biatch.
I thought those are two different people.
I think it's the same person.
No, well, one's white, and I think one's like a little more tanned, kind of.
I think it's the same person.
Really? I thought those were two different performances, because I really like that every time she sneaks in, that girl that comes up behind, because I think she's like appropriately annoying.
I think she just has her hair up in a
bun, I totally
ponytail because she's working out, and then in the other ones her hair is down. Pretty sure it's the same person.
All right, yeah.
But I could not stand her. And I thought everyone else kind of fell into that category of like being in a stereotype, but not pushing it far enough to like make me laugh or subvert the genre or the stereotype in any way, or make it self-aware or parody or satire, but not playing it realistic either. So it was just in this weird middle ground of like, I'm not laughing at you, I'm not laughing with you. It doesn't really seem like you cared about what you were doing in this role. And I thought Jessica Roth, I don't think is in that category, but I think she's in the category of overacting for the part that she's given.
Oh, really?
Where like she doesn't seem like someone who's comfortable being the leading lady. Like, I don't think she's comfortable with, like, Carter seems like he could maybe carry a movie in the future. Like, he's comfortable with just being chill and like letting a scene kind of breathe in a way, whereas like Jessica Roth seems like she's always trying to like literally like carry this movie through like every little action, like everything she does have to be like so over the top just in her little physical performances,
continuing to push the movie forward kind of. Okay.
And like she didn't really seem like she was comfortable with like, breathing and chilling and letting the movie rest a little bit, and like,
Mike, she's dying. She's dying every night.
But even when she's being like silly and funny and stuff
Yeah,
like that, it's like
uh-huh.
I don't believe that you are what's happening in this movie.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Carter's the only one that I was like, yeah, I buy that you're this person, and maybe his roommate, because his roommate was a little funny, but it was believable as the comedic relief. Whereas like everyone else, I didn't feel like I should be laughing with them.
I was laughing at the fact that, again, I think Blumhouse also is smart enough to know that if their film is PG-13, they're gonna get every fucking middle schooler or high schooler
God.
in town to come to their theater. So the roommate who barges into the dorm and says like, "Hey man, you like."
Something about that sweet vagine. Or...
Right, yeah. He says like, you hit that like sweet vagina last night, kind of like he gets cut off literally almost every other time because I think they're only allowed to say like vagina so many times, or they're only allowed to say like, oh, you dickhead, like so many other times. And I think they also in the first scene they kind of have her in like a bra or something, and it's kind of they front load kind of this movie kind of to be like, uh-oh, this might be R-rated, kind of, but like it's a front-loaded like PG-13 movie where they're counting their.
It's something where I respect the business side of that.
I respect the hustle,
but the filmmaking side of me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's weird to refer to this movie as art, I think, but like
I think under $5 million, it becomes a kind of business venture.
There's a kernel of a good idea. Not even there's a good idea in here. I think this is a great concept. Like, I think I pushed to review this movie more than you did. I mean, I had not really heard of it. I hadn't been bombarded with the advertisements for it. For some reason, I wasn't targeted.
A lot, yeah.
I don't know what Facebook page I didn't like to not be targeted by this stuff. So when I was looking up movies that were doing well or projected to do well, this was one of them. And I was like, oh, that kind of sounds interesting. If it's bad, it should at least be entertainingly bad, judging by it. So I was kind of excited to see this movie. Starting to lose my train of thought. What was I? Oh, yeah, I wanted this movie to push the envelope in certain ways. Like, I wanted like a darker comedy. I think if you were going to take this idea and do it the right way, if you like, if you didn't care about making money, if you didn't care about the $5 million budget, you would make this movie really fucking gory. Like, you would really play up the fact that she's dying every fucking time this happens, and like snap her fucking leg, like fucking slit her, like blood everywhere. Just make it really apparent that this is painful, that she has to go through this every time.
Right.
And then also hire better actors who can like really make this funny. Because there's a lot of times where I know they're trying to be funny, and I'm like, I'm not laughing with you guys. I'm sorry.
Right.
I really wanted to enjoy this, but I'm not really there with these jokes that you guys are making. I think there was like 2 times that I laughed. And one of them, I was more just laughing at the screenwriting. The one part where, what's the character's name that Jessica Roth plays? Tree. Which is the weirdest, stupidest fucking nickname. And it's also dumb that everybody calls her Tree. Like, that seems like that should be a more like, you know, my closest friends call me Tree. Because that's a weird nick. That's not like something you automatically preen from Teresa.
Right.
So it's weird that like Carter calls her Tree at a certain point too. It also doesn't sound like a very loving nickname either, like Tree. It's just a weird thing for someone to be called.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But there was when she's talking about like, oh, like I just had like deja vu, and the one sorority leader is like, oh yeah, when you have that, it means someone's masturbating to the thought of you. I have that like 5 times a day. Like, it's just such a ridiculous, over the top line where I don't even know where the thread of logic that they're trying to like. It doesn't even make that character sound dumb. It just makes the screenwriters sound dumb for having that kind of line.
You're right. Yeah, no, that's
it's funny nonetheless. Like, I laughed really hard when that happened, but it wasn't really, I don't think, the type of laugh they were expecting.
Yeah, no, I did laugh at that too.
There's another part I really laughed at, and the other part I wish I could remember what it was. The other part I did think was actually funny. I was laughing with it, but I don't think it was that memorable because I can't remember it now.
Yeah. I wish, like, I mean, we were just talking about during the, like, Blade Runner review, like, oh, I wish they didn't have to show Harrison Ford in, like, this whole kind of, you know, every poster, every trailer, yada, yada, yada. I really wish there's, like, a scene in the trailer, and you see the whole scene pretty much, beat for beat. It's a little abridged, but the scene where she's she's getting arrested. She gets pulled over and she gets arrested, and she's like, yeah, like put me in the back of the cop car, like I'll be safe from like this impending doom that keeps happening and happening. And then the police officer gets like fucking run over, and I thought that was like that's a kind of like a big like that's a kind of like twist and scare that I think is done really well through editing and through camera work. And I was just kind of like, that sucks that I like already know what happens in this scene. Yeah, like I watched that entire scene up to the point where she's kind of just like driving, and it's like really cathartic where she's like, woo, like I escaped.
They even have that in the trailer too.
Yeah, no, that's how the trailer starts. Yeah. I love how also they don't have like the budget to make the hospital like an actual hospital. It's kind of like hospitals don't turn off their lights at night. There's still people there. There's like also not one guy at the hospital. Like he's the only patient. Like
it's a really healthy town that they live in.
Yeah, they like don't have the budget to fill out that hospital. I mean, it had to have gone elsewhere. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I definitely wanted this to be darker than it ended up being.
Oh yeah. I
didn't really get.
I think I knew exactly what I was getting into when
I wasn't thinking about the fact that it was PG-13. I think I expected it to be an R-rated movie.
Right.
I thought it would have a more sarcastic tone to it, and then like a dark comedy kind of feel to it. I was also expecting it to be more like Scream.
You're right. Yeah.
And less like just not pulling as many punches as it did. Like it was so odd because like there'd be so many scenes where like, she would die and we would just kind of cut like when he would hit her, and we wouldn't actually see any like death scenes. And like not that I really enjoy seeing like gory scenes, but this is one of the movies that I feel like it really needed it, because the entire concept is it's Groundhog Day, but she dies at the end of every fucking day. Groundhog Day, he just goes to sleep and then he wakes up to the same fucking song on the radio every time. But like
he dies too
in Groundhog Day.
Yeah, he jumps off a bridge
every day.
Not every day, but there's some dying in Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, he tries to kill himself and it doesn't work. In this, the point is that she does die. She's trying. She's not trying to, and she's dying. She's
trying to get to
day.
sleep, right?
Yeah. And I thought it would have been more effective to like actually be there through these kind of death scenes with her than actually feel them, rather than like he raises the knife and then as it's about to come down, the alarm goes off and she's back on her bed, and it's kind of like. It's almost like reliving like that like end of a movie sequence where like, oh, it was all a dream every single time. Like,
right.
We're never actually getting to see the pain of her dying or getting injured in any real way. You know, there could have been scenes where like she tried to kill herself and it didn't work and she was, fucked up, or he tried to kill her and it didn't work and then had to finish her off later. It was just every time that he tried to kill her, she died.
Yeah, there was definitely a visual representation of like, just because you stab somebody through the back doesn't mean they die right then and there. I think it was more matching the tone of the PG-13 movie of kind of like, well, you get the point. She's dead.
Yeah. Then I think my complaint is that if it's not going to satisfy me in that horror way, then it should have been funnier, I thought. Like... And I know part of that is the budget. Like, if you have a $5 million budget, you can only get so many good actors. And,
right.
They probably wasted it all on, like, Carter. And, I guess Jessica Roth probably got paid a decent amount for this.
Yeah.
But, there's nobody that's of any name brand value in this movie. And I think it sorely needed that. Like, I would have been curious to see this movie with, like, $25 million and, like, hire some comedians to play the side roles to really make us laugh.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And all this shit.
Again, I'm sure if Megan Fox played this role, I'm sure she'd be surrounded by
T.J. Miller.
Yeah, like higher quality caliber, like actors or whatever. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I had like a lot of fun in this movie just because I think I have like. I don't know. I don't always have like a great time in like a horror movie, and this isn't really a horror movie. It has horror elements of it, basically. But yeah, it's more of this kind of like I love like the combining elements of like you have this kind of like college comedy working at one end, and then you have this kind of like slasher campy horror movie, and then again you also have this time loop kind of thing worked in there. And I mean, you even get some like really like, I mean, this would be a combination of just this is just a part of the movie. I don't think I'd shoehorn this into any sort of genre, but you get some like legitimate, like again on her redemption arc, you get some like legitimate like emotional kind of scenes, like when she's talking to her dad. I really enjoyed that scene. You know, when she's kind of like heart to heart with like a lot of different people, even her roommate, who, you know, spoiler alert, ends up being less than honest.
Did you call that really early on in the movie?
I didn't. That kind of really took me by surprise.
Okay. Part of my experience for the movie is ruined because I caught onto that really quickly. I still think it's a pretty clever twist. I think they lay enough groundwork where I was bored, so I was just trying to figure out like who could it be, like
right,
and like the clues are all kind of there. Like they keep going back to the hospital. Yeah. And then finding out that it's not someone else. So they clearly established that she works as a nurse at the hospital and don't really pick up on that later. So I'm like, all right, that's going to be a thing. She looks much different from the other sorority sisters. Like she's not concerned about makeup or appearance really at all. So it's like, why is no one like picking on her about, like, she's clearly got some other purpose in this movie,
right?
Otherwise, why wouldn't you just have her be another sorority like girl?
Right.
Because the rest of them are all clearly made out to be like supermodels, like way hotter than sorority girls should even be. I feel like movies have such a weird idea of how sorority girls actually are.
Definitely, yeah.
Like oftentimes they're not that hot.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
And then when they do the montage, because they do a few montages in this movie, maybe too many, and at weird times that kind of fuck up the pacing. That's one of my other big complaints. But they do one montage where she's like trying to figure out who the killer is, and she keeps going through and spying on all these people, and she doesn't spy on her roommate in that, even though I thought her roommate was one of the first suspects, because I'm trying to remember who the first, I guess it's maybe the guy that she runs into on campus, who turns out to be gay later in the movie, which is also a weird storyline because it almost gets like anti-homosexual. I feel like there's a better term for that I can't think of right now. Homophobic, yes.
Okay.
When they have the reveal that he's gay and he's like jerking off to gay porn because it's like a punchline and she's like laughing at it, like, haha, he's jerking off to, like, it was a little weird. Like I think in like a bigger budget movie we would have been like, maybe let's cut that out in case there's a better market for this.
Yeah, I guess using sexuality as a twist kind of is a little
it's not great. But then after that, when she goes back to the room the first time in the first version of the day, she like gives her the cupcake and she's like, oh, like, how did you know it was my birthday? She's like, oh, I got it off your driver's license. And she says something after that that's really creepy too, that like I picked up on early, and I was like, oh, okay, she's definitely one of the people we're supposed to suspect. And then when they did the like montage, she's the only one that they didn't like investigate at all,
right?
Besides the professor, but then they do the professor right after that. So you're like, all right, well, it's obviously her, and they don't really come back to her at the hospital, even though they clearly established she's a nurse at the hospital. So I figured it out pretty early, and then it pissed me off when they had the sort of like, it's great for the screenplay. It's just, it sucked for my experience because they had like the fake ending of like, oh, it's just this guy from whoever who's like a random serial killer that just happens to be in the hospital.
I got disappointed.
And I was like, why did you set all those like traps for us to like pick up, all those clues and shit for us to pick up on, and then just have it be someone like out of like left field?
Right.
And then I was more pleased when it was like, oh, it is actually her, and she's just using that guy. So I thought that was actually a clever twist. It just also kind of sucked for my experience watching the movie, because I was like pissed for most of it, because I was like, what the fuck? Why is it not that girl that it clearly should be?
Right.
I thought I had figured it out.
Because there's such like great closure in that scene. Besides, like, I hate when she's got it all planned out. She has like the perfect day, like Bill Murray has, kind of, she becomes this better person. She becomes this better version of herself, because again, we are introduced to her as like this pretty shitty person.
Mm-hmm.
She becomes the best version of herself, and then she successfully kills this guy. I mean, again, after much struggle, kind of.
And also is just immediately allowed to go home
I
and hang out. Like,
that's
even if you were justified, like cops are never like, you know what? Yeah, go home. You shot a man like 4 times.
Yeah, and you fucking hijacked a police officer's gun by holding a fucking knife to his throat.
That part I was okay with because I feel like he would recognize that she saved him and would maybe be like,
no,
yeah,
I
she's
did
cool.
not recognize that. I did not recognize that. I was kind of like, he doesn't know that you're in a time loop. He just knows that you're coming in here to fucking murder somebody who's on like,
but after
who hasn't had a fair trial yet.
Okay, I guess what you're saying. Before the whole thing would play out, yeah, he would probably run for get help and be like, oh, by the way, someone held a knife to my neck.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't happen and he is just able to tell them that he's going to escape, and then after the fact, he's like, oh, man, like she saved my life. He would have fucking like escaped and killed me.
But he doesn't know that. He just knows that like maybe she like...
Well, she warned him and told him to get out of there and get help.
Oh, definitely. But I'm saying he's protecting this hospital room where a man is literally cuffed to the bed. He doesn't know that he's about to escape. For all he knows is
she tells him he is, though. Oh, you're saying you don't buy that he would believe her?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just a random girl comes up to you, a police officer, and holds like a fucking 2-inch knife or like fucking 6-inch knife to your throat and is like, I'm taking your gun and I'll get out of here and get help. And he's like, yeah, okay, you're the fucking criminal, kind of, and leaves and doesn't see that the criminal has like, loosened his...
I can't really remember. I feel like she said something that was like to calm him down. Like, I don't want to hurt you at all. Like, you have to get help or something. But I might just be projecting. Either way, I didn't like her performance, but I thought she made me believe that scene where I put myself in like his shoes. And I was like, okay, yeah, he probably does go get help. And he probably does conveniently leave out the fact that like she held him at, knife point. And then after the fact, he's like, oh, she saved my life. Yeah, I'm definitely going to leave that out of my report. And
he's able to
scot free.
Yeah, she's able to go to the dorm room fucking.
But there's still the fact that like the cops who would arrive on scene to this like dead body would be like, you're holding a gun. That guy's dead. We don't know you're in a time loop. So we're going to take you in.
Yeah, like
he may be a serial killer, but you still just shot him in cold blood. As far as we know.
I know they don't know that she didn't fucking like blow his brains out while he was like attached to the hospital bed and then just kind of drag him like into the hallway. I guess
they might have video camera footage in the hallway, but even then, then that's gonna prove that she did hijack his. It's a stretch.
It's premeditated, is what it is.
There's something else too. Oh, there's another moment that has like the same kind of like stretch of logic for me, where I was like, "You would not be." I guess it's at the end when she throws the girl out the window and she splatters all over. We're like, that's even worse because it's like that girl is not a known serial killer that was handcuffed to a bed, so she does get the benefit of the doubt as maybe just being the victim rather than the oppressor. And who does she have to witness on her side? Because she didn't really... Carter's the only one she really confided in. I don't remember if she even confided in Carter that day before that. Because that's the thing, is Carter's memory gets reset every day.
Yeah, she didn't. She fucking straight up like a man.
So who backs up her story that day enough for her to just go to the diner after that? And
yeah, no, she's back in the diner the same day. She's
watching the news report of what just happened. Like
fucking, she Amanda Knox'd her fucking roommate. She fucking murders her. Amanda Knox had to go through like a year of Italian prison.
She's still not done.
No, yeah, she's still.
The trauma still lives on for Amanda Knox.
Yeah, it's a really, again, but a lot of this movie is kind of this stretch of logic. I mean,
the entire premise is a stretch of like who is causing this kind of karmic loop that she's stuck in. And then the movie never really like broaches like why. Like I think the one thing I did like about Groundhog Day, I'm not a huge Groundhog Day fan, but it does clearly get across the fact that the reason he's doing this is because he's a jerk, and because he's an asshole, and the time loop stops once he's able to like be a better person. But with like this movie, the time loop stops because she finds out who her killer is, and then it's like, well, then what is the reason? Like when she was first killed, she was a shitty person.
Right.
Like it would make sense if she was a nice person, and then it's like, you know, karma is like, well, she didn't deserve to die, so we have to correct this if there's some, you know, big karmic force out there, and is allowing her to keep redoing it until she figures out so that karma is rightfully served. But if she gets fucked up and killed when she's a shitty person, why does karma or whatever's in control care that she died, and why is karma giving her a second chance?
So here's my theory. And again, they should have done a little better job of explaining this in the film, but I mean, obviously we have this whole premise where her mom shared her birthday. Her mom was killed. I don't really know how, really. They don't explain. Her mom dies, basically. And again, this film is also kind of about her not even really wanting to celebrate her birthday because she has endured some form of family trauma, kind of. And again, maybe they don't need to. Maybe they don't deserve to, like. Maybe the audience doesn't deserve to be, like, explained to this. But I think maybe there is some sort of, like, cosmic, like, her mother from beyond the grave is, you know, protecting her and giving her this opportunity, kind of, to both, like, teach her a lesson from beyond the grave and, like, you know, I don't know. Is it, I mean, does, like, her mom from beyond the grave cause some sort of, like, cosmic tear or, like, you know, whatever is going on, really? Who knows? But I also kind of like that the film is unapologetic of just kind of like, this is happening. Sorry, it's a fucking goofy fucking movie, you know? Like, it's just kind of like there's a guy in a baby mask chasing this girl who's in a fucking sorority. It's like, you can't take it super seriously. I saw, like, a lot of videos of people who were like, ending of Happy Death Day explained or something, and they could never really come up with anything. They're also like, I really would appreciate if the movie, like, went into, like, a little more detail about why this was happening, like, and it was just kind of like, what is it's a fucking, like, sorority
I don't
horror
need
movie.
like a scientific reason
Right,
for why
right,
this happening. I just think that, like, Groundhog Day at least had, like, the moral thing to fall back on of, like, he needed to be a better person, and that's, you know, there's, you can imagine that there's something out there that maybe wants you to be a better person. That's not hard to tap into,
Right.
You know, whatever kind of religion or whatever belief about the universe you have. That's common in a lot of.
She was
beliefs.
a shitty person, though, kind of, you know.
But that it would make sense if that the karmic loop would stop when she was a good person, but the karmic loop stops when she finds out who the killer is, because she is a good person for one day, and then she wakes up and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
And it doesn't stop until she actually figures out who the killer is.
But
so then it doesn't make sense, because then it's like she was a shitty person when she got killed. So why would, I guess if you're saying that it's the mom, and the mom wouldn't care that she's a shitty person.
Well, I think,
but I don't think there's anything that hints at that. I think that's just us trying to justify what's given to us.
Right. I mean, I think that she learns how to become a better person, but I don't think her journey is over yet. You know, when she becomes a better person, when she completes that arc, there's still the mystery of the story to solve, kind of. I don't know. That's what I took away from it.
I thought the movie also kind of, like, cheaped out a little bit sometimes when it would go to these, like, montages, because they would also, like, really fuck up the pace for me, I thought.
Right.
Like, I feel like every movie we reviewed this batch had horrible pacing, where it was just like, it's getting intense, and then we're going to go into a montage, or we're going to go into a slow moment if it's Blade Runner. Or, like, a comedic moment for the movie we're reviewing next week, Only the Brave. And this would, like, it would keep going into these montages, and it would just really take you out of everything, and I don't think it really utilized the montage to great effect. Like, I feel like this is a really great concept. I think, like, if I was at any movie studio, much less one that could make this movie for $5 million, and someone's like, let's make a horror version of Groundhog Day,
right,
where the the girl dies at the end of each day and she has to figure out who her killer is. Like, fucking, I'm sold. Like, that's why I wanted to review this movie, because I thought the trailer had a great concept where even if it's not a great movie, I'm going to be entertained just because I'm interested to see how this concept plays out. And I feel like they didn't really fully utilize the concept for entertainment value. Right. And I think there's some moments where it's really great. Like they spoil it in the trailer, but like the one day where she's like, I'm just going to do like whatever. And she walks around like naked. And that's really like the only like example they have of her like utilizing, because they do that in Groundhog Day a bunch, where he's kind of like, well, if nothing matters, then like I can use this as like, this is a gift. Like I can do whatever I want, and I can fucking say this to this person that I've always wanted to say, try this, do this, you know, steal a car, do whatever. And she all she really does is she walks around naked and then like steals someone's sunglasses, and like doesn't really. I wanted to see more cleverness in following that through.
I mean, I think she does talk back to, I still think they're two different people. I think she talks back to in the sorority scene where she's about to walk up the stairs back to her room when she sneaks back in the house. She kind of is a little sassy and snaps back at her a few times. And then I think there's also this huge thing where she pours the fattening chocolate milk on the, you know, her sorority leader. And
but she's able done in like a montage that like gets done in like a minute and a half. Like,
you wanted like a longer scene?
That, and I think they also came at like bad times. Like they weren't really good at like. We probably only needed one montage. They had two. They had one where she was like living out her like wildest dreams, which weren't really that wild. They should have thought bigger. They should have created a universe outside of this where she had thoughts and desires outside of this like 6 or 1 day loop that she keeps reliving. Like everything she does is within this loop of like, oh, I'm gonna take this sunglasses, I'm gonna pour this thing. Like there should have been something that she wanted to do that we got to see her do from reliving this loop. And then they have the other montage where I guess she's doing like the good stuff throughout the day. And they both came, I thought, at like inopportune times where like, and maybe out of order. I don't know if the good one would come too early in the film, but I feel like the one where she's like fucking walking around naked, that should come when she's like, I think it was actually the other way around. There was two different montages. I don't think there's a good montage now that I think about it. There's two different montages. I think the naked one is later in the film.
There's a montage of her doing the infinite lives method of finding who your killer is.
Yes. That's the first one.
Right.
I thought that should have been later. I thought that the first one should have been like, it should be a happier tone in the beginning. And, you know, at first she's like, you know, this is kind of like a gift. Like I could do whatever I want with this day. And you can even get across a theme before that of like, you know, maybe she's bored with life. And, you know, now this is her opportunity to kind of break out of the confines of, you know, what's expected of her at her sorority and by her rich father who's sending her to this school and whatever. And then she's allowed to break out of that, you know, by doing whatever, walking around naked. Like that's just an interesting concept of what would you do if you could relive a day without consequences? And then later on, when she's trying to figure it out and she can't, and she just keeps fucking dying and she's bored and it won't end, then some real frustration sets in. And then it's like, well, now I need to end this. So now let's have a montage where I'm going to figure out how to end this by figuring out who's my fucking killer. But they do it like the reverse, where it's like right away she's like, well, let me just figure out how to get out of this and find my killer. And then it's like, then when she gets frustrated and then goes to like the happy montage of like, I'm naked and I'm taking stuff. And that's where the pacing is weird for me. Like I want to be like, it should be more happier in the beginning. And then we get to like the climax of the movie and the stakes are raised.
Right.
Things are a little bit darker. And that's when she's trying to figure out like, how the fuck do I get out of this? I'm sick of dying. I'm sick. I'm in the hospital. I'm getting worse each time and I'm getting weaker each time. Like, how do I figure this out so I can not be stuck in this loop?
I did like that concept. I don't know if I've ever seen it in like a time loop movie where somebody is somebody has like traumatic injury, has some sort of sign of traumatic injuries from each death that they've endured, kind of. I thought that was super interesting. Where again she's like, I'm kind of like a cat that has 9 lives, but I'm really,
Yeah, it was cool that it
running
wasn't like
out.
a video game where it was just completely resetting every time
Right.
she died.
She could
It's
just
like,
live forever, as long as she just keeps dying. It was kind of like, no, this is pretty limited.
but they kept the tone so generally light throughout. The only time it really kind of got low is when she did the dinner with her dad, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted a little bit more of the darkness just at the climax. Then you can get funny after that. The ending can be funny. The part before that can be funny.
Mm-hmm.
But like make us feel the consequences during like the climax and make us actually be scared for this character and care through the tone of the movie. And I don't think we really got that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of really what else.
Oh, the other thing I'm realizing that was not a meaningful point at all, but the other thing that made me realize that it was definitely the nurse girl roommate was they kept bringing up like, oh, she's seeing someone new.
Yeah.
That she's keeping a secret. She won't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, clearly it's the professor guy, because she has the one line where she's like, this is going to have consequences if you continue this later on.
Yeah.
And that's what I was really like, yeah, it's fucking her. So then I was really mad when it was the serial killer guy for a little while. I was like, why would you mislead us like that?
Yeah. And even like it didn't. I mean, I don't know. I just like as soon as they started kind of leading us. I mean, as soon as he takes that mask off, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
it's also weird
like
because in all the other scenes that it's her, I guess it's pointing to the fact that we should have known that it wasn't ultimately him. But all the other scenes that it's her, she doesn't take them. Like when she'll just be staring at Tree, and Tree will be like, show yourself, and she won't take the mask off.
I think,
and then in that scene, she doesn't even really provoke him, and he's just kind of like, and it's me.
Oh, I thought she took the mask off him.
No, he's just standing there, and then he pulls it off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's a whole scene where he like chases her without the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a hint for me, but I was also like, well, they're not revealing her yet.
Yeah.
But it was weird that he was taking it off, and then it should have been more of a hint. It should have confirmed my belief then.
Right, yeah.
I still think I think that's probably my favorite part. I think it's a clever twist that it was her.
Same. Yeah. I don't know. I liked that it was the poisoned cupcake, even though how the fuck did she think she was gonna get away with that? We have fucking CSI and shit. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously just a jealous sorority girl who also wants to fuck some professor. Yeah. I don't know. I like the whole relationship with the professor. I thought that was the most that progressed the fastest out of all of these relationships within the movie, really, because we have kind of like her going into his office and seducing him, her going into his office and kind of asking him for help, and him being like, you don't have to like fall in love with me, and then her kind of kind of threatening him near the end. It was like a very quick progression. I liked that there was like that kind of ramp up in her life where she was able to like, all right, it's easier to solve these obviously bad things very quickly, and where friendship is a little harder. Like friendship with my peers is harder to come to terms with than fucking a professor, which is obviously not a great decision.
Yeah, I don't know if I didn't like him as an actor, and I don't know if I believed him as a doctor, much less like a professor of medicine.
Yeah.
Or nursing or whatever they are. They never really said what she was studying to be. It must be pre-med of some kind.
Yeah, it must be some sort of
if she's in
medicine.
the same class as someone who's a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also weird that like the roommate is like doing like her nursing rotation or internship or whatever you call it for nursing,
right?
But they're in the same classes, and Tree is not doing that and not working at all.
Are they in the same class? Is she?
They must be if she is.
I just thought
she's crushing on the same professor.
I just thought she like works,
and he's a doctor because he's the one that shows her the X-rays and stuff.
Oh no, definitely. But
so she's taking some kind of medical classes.
That's true. Yeah, no, definitely.
Unless she's pre-med and the other one is trying to get her RN, whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like you still need pre-med for that. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, but again, I mean, there are. I didn't mind that this film didn't really explain what were the cosmic forces behind this. Again, like Groundhog Day really doesn't get into that big of an explanation. I mean, Edge of Tomorrow, where you're fighting a fucking alien, it's like a sci-fi war zone. I understand that, Tom Cruise has some sort of alien DNA or in him or whatever the end of that was. Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought this was like a nice addition to this sort of genre, time loop. That's my refrigerator. Yeah.
There was a monkey in the kitchen. I just thought it could have been done better. I think I saw a lot of promise in the concept. And even in the trailer, like the trailer kind of got me going. I don't know if it's just because it's 50 Cent playing in the trailer, which should have been in this movie.
The biggest mistake is that wasn't her ringtone.
That's such a pump up song.
Mm-hmm. They could have even had some montage to that song. Like,
yeah. Anyway, you want to get to some fingers?
Yeah. I also hated that one scene where they're kind of displaying how bad of a person she is, because she's hooking up with her sorority leader's boyfriend, and I feel like all like screenwriters are kind of like, what are millennials like?
When they're texting.
I think they like get hard to like playing EDM songs or something. Like it was just so bizarre.
I thought you were gonna talk about all the like the abbreviations they use while. Are you with him, RN?
Yeah. No, just like him like playing some weird like song, and he's like. Like, I don't know. I was just like, okay.
Oh, that was the part in that scene was that I did laugh with the movie, and I wish they had done more of this tone of like kind of lampooning college life rather than just being like a slightly unrealistic version of college life that's not really a parody or a satire. But when they're hooking up and when he's fucking murdering her. And then the one drunk guy wanders in, and he's too drunk to realize that like she's getting murdered, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like walks out. Like I laughed really hard at that. I thought that was clever, and then they didn't really pick up on that tone later in the movie.
That was definitely like a date rape joke. Like that was definitely like a frat rape.
And that joke. Was kind of the humor was that like, and if she had been getting raped, he wouldn't have realized either. And then she's getting murdered, and he's still kind of like, oh, sorry to interrupt.
She's like help, and he's like, woo. That was funny. In like a very dark way. That was, that was a very
There's
dark
a lot going on
humor.
But as for ratings, on review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 68% based on 80 reviews with an average rating of 5.9 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, Happy Death Day puts a darkly humorous sci-fi spin on slasher conventions with added edge courtesy of a star-making performance from Jessica Roth. Roth.
Yeah, I don't know how to say her last name.
There's an E at the end. I don't really have any more thoughts, and I still don't know what I want to give this movie.
I'll go first then. I really, I've kind of laid out all my thoughts too. I did really like Jessica Roth. I do think we'll see her in a lot in this future. I've even heard there's some like really great indie film with her making the rounds right now in film festivals. I don't know what it's called though. But I heard that she is like a similar kind of progression of person that you love to hate that turns into somebody that you like hate to love kind of. Which I think she does super well in this film. And she's definitely, at first I was kind of like, oh, she's like some sort of like Blake Lively stand-in kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She just almost has more of a range than Blake Lively kind of, in my opinion. yeah, the rest of the cast was pretty good. I don't know. This was just my kind of horror movie, I guess, just because it didn't have that much horror and it had a ton of campiness in it. Again, I shared quite a few complaints during this. It's just not the highest caliber of movie, really. But I also have to factor in this $5 million budget. I think I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 fingers. So it's just above average. I'd say if you're thinking about seeing it and you're looking forward to like a good time, it's like a good time horror movie. It's kind of like something you can sit down and laugh at, and it's really short and it's kind of fun. That's all.
I think I'm going to start with my rating, and I'll work backwards from there to kind of like justify it. I think
Go
I'm going
for
to
it,
give it 1.5 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn between that and 2. It's less than average, I think, for me.
You're right, yeah.
Like I think I want to give it a 2 because I didn't hate watching it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is because it's short. Part of that is because my expectations weren't incredibly high to begin with. Like I just thought I was like, I'm not going to be miserable watching this, so I want to review it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't want to review this.
Yeah, and I thought it's an interesting concept, and I think a lot of my enjoyment just comes from how great that concept is. Of just like it's hard to completely fuck up a good concept like that. Like,
right,
and they even like they pretty much kind of show their cards at the end where they have the scene where he's something about Groundhog Day. She's like, "Oh, I've never seen it." Like, then we clearly know that
who's
like,
Bill Murray
when when they pitched this movie, they 100% said a horror version of Groundhog Day.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And like that's a great concept. Like that's a winning idea right there, and they deserve to have this movie made. I just feel like it could have been a much better movie. Like I wanted it to be that 3-finger movie of like, or even higher, where it really leans into like the campiness. I feel like I don't think this was campy enough because it wasn't really leaning into parody or satire or being self-aware. It just seemed like lazy writing to me, where it was like, oh, it's easier to not think about what else these sorority girls could be other than attractive and bitchy and mean and
right, yeah,
like having eating disorders. Like, and you know, and they have like maybe some slight variations, like the jock guy is gay, but they use that to negative effect by making that like a punchline. And like Carter's really the only one I like. I don't really find myself rooting for the main character. I think the screenplay is like the dialogue is really bad at parts, as evidenced by the scene that I laughed at of like, oh yeah, when you have deja vu, it means like somebody's masturbating to you. Like,
yeah.
I just don't know where the logic is in that for me to laugh at it, other than it's just like, why would someone think of, like, I can't imagine that character saying that at all. Like being funny enough to understand that zany sense of humor. So I don't understand where that's coming from at all. So I think I was let down in a lot of ways, and if I wasn't gonna like laugh at it and enjoy it in that way, I wanted it to be like a dark comedy type thing, like kind of like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which you mentioned is something he was inspired by, where it's like it's parodying the horror genre, but it also is doing what the horror genre does in terms of gore and horror and slasher movies. And like if you're gonna parody, I mean, this is almost like it's definitely inspired by like Scream in certain ways. Yeah. And I feel like this would have been better made in like the 90s. Like this is a great like 90s concept for a horror movie.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I feel like if they were going to do that, they should have made it some kind of like 90s throwback and really leaned into that, leaned into the campiness more. And if you're not going to lean into either of those, then lean into the gore more and like satisfy us in that way. And I just felt like I was left blue-balled in like many areas of this movie. Yeah. But that being said, I didn't hate it, so I can't give it a 0. I can't give it a 1, but I also can't give it like a 2 or you know, something close to being half average, because I think it's below average. I enjoyed it, but I can't really point to anything that I think is well done about the movie. So I'll go with 1.5 fingers for this. So that will come out to 2.25, rounding down to 2 fingers overall. A difference of 1.5 fingers between me and Joe.
Oh no. What a tear
in our friendship. Actually, we had 2.5. What movie was that? Okja this year.
Oh yeah.
And then we must have had, I think the biggest was, I'm just looking at the thing right now so I can see it. I gotta go all the way back. I'm pretty sure it was Anomalisa. Why is it not showing up? Anomalisa. Yeah, 3. I gave it a 1. You gave it a 4.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was probably our biggest
a
divide.
dark time in our friendship.
A dark time in our friendship.
We scarcely recovered. But if you agree or disagree, if you saw this movie, I'm not really sure how this. Did we talk about how this did at the box office?
Beat Blade Runner.
Did it really?
Yes.
I guess I'm not really surprised. Blade
No.
Runner is kind of like a cult movie.
Yeah.
It was a risk. But yeah, if you saw this movie and you agree or disagree, let us know on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to get in contact with us. We're checking, we're listening. And let's go through some links real quick.
Go for it.
Get out of here and get on to our next episode coming out next week. Stay tuned for that. Our review of Only the Brave.
Only the Brave.
Only the Brave. And check out our review last week of Blade Runner 24/9 with Will Schaefer.
24/9, bro.
I'm
420 backwards.
I'm on that shit 24/9. It's more than 24/7. Hey, we're on Snapchat now at HMF Podcast.
Do you know this?
I posted 1 snap today. I should probably post more. Subscribe to our YouTube. You can find a link on our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com, and put one of our playlists on loop, put it on mute, put it on loop, obviously, as I just said, and then just let that shit play, get us some plays so we can get back to 10,000 plays, and then we can monetize our videos and put external links. And then you never have to watch us again. And then on howmanyfingerspodcast.com, you'll find a link to our iTunes, or just search us on iTunes, How Many Fingers Podcast, and you can rate us and you subscribe to us on there. Really good for our metrics, helps us out a whole lot, and you'll get notified every time we're posting a new episode. Speaking of, if you want to get notified, sign up for our mailing list on howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And that's also the only way to enter our contest that we were doing for or been trying to do and have not done since.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if anyone signs up for our mailing list, we'll have to, so you should sign up for our mailing list. We're going to give away some koozies like these featured here during our Facebook Live episodes. Our next one will be 2 weeks from now?
Yes.
2 Saturdays from now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening to this when it comes out. And again, the pool is from our mailing list subscribers. So subscribe to that. The link's on our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And while we're talking about koozies, we've got them. And t-shirts and stickers and all 3 in a package deal for $11.99. You can find that on our website or howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. And an Amazon link and an iTunes link on our website. Click on either. Anything you purchase within 24 hours within each respective browser window will get a nice cut of. Easy way to support the podcast without going too far out of your way. And that'll about do it for this episode.
You certainly will.
Signing out for How Many Fingers the Podcast, I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And we're just doing this 24/9er.